So for the past month, I've been taking part in an online course from Andrew Huang and Monthly, or Learn Monthly, a new platform. Music production in 1 month. Write 3 tracks, learn from the pros, learn from Andrew Huang, famous YouTuber and music producer. How did it go? So what I'm going to do in this video is tell you a little bit about who I am, my background, what the course was like, what it involved, what I managed to produce with the course. There were 3 tracks and I'll put those at the end of the video so you can see the kind of thing that you'll get up to if you're doing the course. There's some good bits, some difficult bits, just want to chat through it. So without further ado, if you're looking to take the course and wondering if it might be for you, let me tell you a bit about what my background is and what my goals were with the course. So if you've not been to the channel before, I'm Kieran, I'm one half of Boxtape. We're a band, we've got a YouTube channel, we make music fairly frequently and try and make interesting music videos. I handle guitar, I'm learning to sing, I do mixing, production and recording, although we both get a bit involved with everything. I'm the main music production guy. We write like indie folk primarily, but it's a real mix. There's some electronica in there, there's some bluesy stuff, there's some chuggy guitars occasionally. Previously we were a sort of a prog metal band, so I have a lot of experience playing, writing and a bit of recording with that. When I grew up I was playing around with stuff like Fruity Loops when it was still called Fruity Loops, something called Jez Cola Buzz, trackers. I like that kind of electronic edge. And if you want to see where I was when I started the course, you can just look at this channel. Anything before this video will of course be before the course. So the course looks to be like a collaboration between Andrew Huang, famous YouTube music producer, writer, musician, all-round nice guy, and Learn Monthly, who are a new company platform. And it's a 1 month long course with 3 main sections. It's kind of video tuition in a peer group with peer feedback where you are set a series of things to do, ultimately writing, producing, recording, etc. 3 tracks. I mean, it really covers any aspect of being a modern music producer, which tends to cover everything from coming up with an idea for a track, making sounds, sampling, making instruments and synths, arrangement, composition, and recording, and production, editing, mixing, the whole shebang. And as you're doing it, you're kind of following along with videos, like instructional videos, but also videos where Andrew is doing exactly the same thing. And obviously he's a very experienced musician and producer, so you're kind of learning all the steps that he'd encounter, all the problems he'd encounter, and how he deals with them. So my main goal for the course comes from my main problem as a producer, which is that I'm primarily self-taught. You know, I've been to a few studios and had some great advice from people like George and Nick, so thanks guys. And the problem is you can kind of get to a point where you don't know what you don't know. So I put together tracks, I mix tracks, but I feel like there's some kind of a ceiling. I don't know what to do next to make things sound better. I can work away at a problem and incrementally make it that little bit nicer, but I don't know who to turn to. Online there are a billion YouTube tutorials and forum posts and people to ask, people with opinions, but they tend to be aimed towards beginners. Now I'm not saying I know everything, but I feel like when you've got something together, you know the tools, you know the options available to you, but what's the process? How do you find out what it is that makes the difference between understanding all of that and actually producing a commercially viable track, say? So overall, how was the course? I think it was really worthwhile. I think it was really great, and for a number of reasons, and I will go through them. So first of all, really valuable and kind of a part of the course, but kind of not. The music theory get up to speed lesson is actually available online free on Andrew's YouTube channel right now. That was great. I am not a theory magician. I play some guitar, I've played a little piano, but in terms of understanding how to come up with chord progressions for these tracks and fill in some blanks, that was just really good, really valuable, and it's kind of free, so anyone should check that out. I think as well there was some real solid advice and instruction, lots of details and processes and explanations, some things which now seem obvious and basic but hadn't really clicked and been given a name around, composition, arrangement, song structure, swells and hits, and just how things come together. Putting a name to it means you can think about it and consider it when you're trying to solve a problem. Andrew was, of course, an instructional in the course, so you're in a peer group with a subset, I guess, of all the people doing the course, and people post things and look for feedback and give feedback. You contribute by giving feedback, but also Andrew does get involved. I had a few good comments and pieces of feedback from him, which were very informative. The huge thing for me, the most beneficial, was seeing Andrew's approach. So many times I'm working through a track and I've been going down a path for hours, sometimes days, and it gets frustrating. It's not quite going the way I want because there's a technical problem, because I can't perhaps hear what it is that I need to do to make it better, or perhaps I'm just not having creative ideas. And what you see with Andrew when he's working through these tracks is similar situations, and then you see how he deals with them. So something really surprising and reassuring was to see that he's working through these tracks, building them up, and then will decide to go a completely different direction, and that's fine. Whereas I would get to that point and be frustrated. I spent all this time, I can't throw this away. Andrew's like, well, that's cool, that was just a jam, now let's try this, now let's try this. And that was empowering. It was a relief. It means I can happily work away at a track, and it might not work out, and that's fine. And clearly that happens to really experienced, capable music producers and composers, and so it's fine if it should happen to me as well. That was a big realization, because you don't see that on YouTube, you don't see that on tutorials. People have something, they run through it, it's done, it's amazing. So to see that process was just invaluable. In a similar vein, Andrew really showed each and every step of the process you get without cuts, crafting a song from scratch through, composition, arrangement, editing, mixing, production, finishing touches, having ideas, trying stuff out. It was really good to see. In particular, something I thought was a huge deal was the third track, which is real instruments. So you write lyrics, you record your own voice, if you can, and play something on real instruments. But the process of Andrew writing the song, the lyrics, he spoke through every single step, every thought. Let's try this, let's not try this, maybe that's too on the nose, no, this is a bit more enigmatic. And that was either he's got a lot of confidence or he's incredibly brave. That was like a very vulnerable thing to do, and it was absolutely fantastic to see. To see someone's creative process is kind of like seeing them struggle, and I think that was great. Thanks, Andrew, and really valuable, and would help anyone who's thinking of going down the same path and going down and doing the same process, because they're going to face similar struggles. And in terms of confidence building, that was fantastic. I mean, another big part of doing any course like this is that you're making a commitment, and you're committing to a time scale. So you could watch a load of YouTube videos and that would give you knowledge, but you're not really going to apply it and demonstrate an end-to-end process unless you have an endpoint. And in this case, 3 tracks in a month, the timing is fairly tight, but you make it work. On each of the 3 tracks there was more that I thought I could do with it, but I got it to a point where I was okay to share it. And so having that time pressure makes you do the job and do all the jobs you need to get to that final point. So that was great for me. Another positive thing was, of course, that you're doing the course at the same time as a whole load of other people, specifically in your peer group. So people post an update, it's cool, it's sort of inspiring, and it eggs you on to do your post, and then you get some nice feedback and some ideas, and the ideas are good on the most, and you can roll that in. So kind of you keep each other going. So that was a good community spirit, I'd say. So what was difficult about the course? The first one's an obvious one, I think. The time commitment. So they say an hour or 2 every day, and I think that's probably about right. Whether it's, watching a video that might be an hour and a half of editing and mixing and guidance around that, or it's actually sampling something to use in the second track. It probably takes about that every day. The thing is, if you have a day off, you're then up to 2 to 4 hours in the next day. If you have a couple of days out, then it just accumulates. On one occasion I was away from home for 3 days at a conference. I'll come back to that, it's important. And 3 days accumulated means 3 days of catch up, when you're back on the ball. This is kind of a specific technical difficulty, but Pro Tools. So Pro Tools, just a DAW, the one that I've been using because going into studios and working with professional studios, they've got a preference for Pro Tools. Why not use Pro Tools? I also don't really do EDM, electronic music much, for which, Ableton would probably have the edge. The course can be done with any DAW, but for Pro Tools, it was a massive pain. So the sampling track, for example, Pro Tools doesn't have a decent built-in sampler with the features that were spoken about. There's a software synth, free, called Helm, which is recommended on the course. Doesn't work with Pro Tools. You could argue that having restrictions is what, breeds creativity, but in this case, they were tools to demonstrate specific concepts. Of the 3 tracks as well, the first being an electronic composition, the second being sampled or found sound in sort of Andrew's style, I guess. The third was writing a song from scratch. I'm not a songwriter. I'm not yet. I wouldn't consider myself a proper singer-vocalist. So to write lyrics and record vocals and produce a track that way in what could have been the least time of the 3 tracks was challenging. Challenging times 5, challenging times 10, and I think I saw the same with the peer group of those who... the peer group either got mixed up or some people just didn't do it. That was difficult from a confidence perspective, difficult from a time perspective, and from a skill set perspective. And I guess that would happen for the other tracks if you're less experienced with those. Not that the course is punishing. You get as far as you would like. There's not a complexity requirement for the tracks. For me though, that was tough. And the last one's a bit of a nitpick around the technicality of the Learn Monthly site. So first of all, monthly or Learn Monthly, I don't know how you say it, they're very new. I think they've got like 14 followers on Twitter and 14 subscribers on YouTube. There's not really, it's a bit cloak and dagger. Well, there's not really a dagger. It's a bit secretive. I don't know who they are, where they came from. And it might be nice to understand that if you're committing to give them as much money as the course might cost when it's up to the full price. There are a couple of bugs. So I'd get email reminders in one time zone and the course would be in a different time zone. So typically if something was due today, I get the email saying it's due tomorrow. So it's just a minor niggle. And the site was a bit slow sometimes, but on the whole, nothing stopped me getting the course done. It was obvious that the emails were out by a day. So yeah, overall, I really like to say thanks very much to Andrew, because that was very valuable. As I say, the big takeaway being seeing his process and the very personal nature of seeing someone create things from scratch. I did things in this course that I didn't think I could do, like making an EDM drop or writing lyrics and recording myself sing. As I say, I think for me as a producer who's fairly established, who's done a load of tracks but doesn't know what they don't know and doesn't know where to go next, this turned out to be perfect. I could ask questions about tracks and say, what does this need to be, at the next level? And I get answers, and that was just fantastic. Seeing the process, seeing how things come together, and filling in any gaps in my knowledge. Yeah, I think that was great. Ultimately, over the course, I made 3 tracks, which were great fun to put together. The first was an electronic production with synths, different textures. We learnt about transitions between sections, chord progressions, mixing, synth selection, drums, side chaining, etc. Pretty happy with that. The second track was sampling. So as I say, I was out of town at an AI conference, losing 3 days of coursework time. But instead, I managed to sample one of the keynotes at the conference and put together something combining that and some sounds I captured feeding my cats. So it's called AI/Cats Taking Over the World. Third track, I wrote lyrics for the first time ever. I sung a song and recorded it for the first time ever, and I put something together completely from scratch. It was challenging, it was fun, and the more I listen to it, the more I like it. So I'll share it with you.
Wish I could have known you